How is inflation only 8% with current prices? It's not a conspiracy. It's an average. You can just type inflation rate by product in a search engine. Yes, food and energy is way over 8%. Some products like flour are actually near your subjective 30%. But healthcare is only at 23%. You just notice the things that are way higher and don't notice the things that aren't. Inflation is measured using a standard basket of goods meant to be representative of the consumer economy. If the things you buy are a bit different, the inflation percent for your basket of goods might be different. Inflation numbers are also based on a few months old prices at the time they are published. It's also possible they measured a cherry-picked basket of goods to report a more favorable number. This seems like a much better explanation of an almost 4x disparity. Think about this. Housing prices went up significantly. However, the overwhelming majority of people don't buy a house on any given year. This cost increase is reduced in economic models to reflect the average change in monthly housing costs experienced by the entire population. I have a fixed-rate mortgage. This year, my housing cost changed by 0%. I experienced no price inflation on housing. Someone may experience 30% increases in monthly costs due to the purchase of a new property. However, the experiences of both of us must be included in the aggregate model. Inflation is not sticker prices. Inflation is the real cost of a good or service experienced by each individual across many categories of goods. Another factor to consider is something like alternative products. Say apple prices double but banana prices stay the same. I may switch from apples to bananas in my weekly shop. My costs may actually decrease as a result. The inflation model makes allowances for alternative products and services that can bring costs down. This is the common misunderstanding. Inflation models don't care about your individual purchasing choices. These models use everyone and all the aggregate choices all at once. Another way to think about it is if food prices are up and my income is flat, I have less money for something else. That something else can experience a drop in demand as a result, which can often lead to price decreases. It's confusing, but it's about all choices of every individual added up, not one specific category or person. I see two main issues with the CPI the USA uses, though it has more. First, note the CPI is a bunch of stuff people buy and they use that list of items and compare it to the past to calculate inflation. However, it has several problems. Substitution. Let's say a family ate 10 pounds of hamburger and 10 pounds of chicken each month. Hamburger goes from $3 to $5 a pound and chicken goes from $2 per pound to $2.10. The government says that since hamburger is up by 2/3 and chicken 1/20, people will buy more chicken and less hamburger. Let's say they use 18 pounds of chicken and 2 pounds of hamburger for the new calculation. The old measure would have been 35.5% but is now only 11.1% because chicken didn't go up very much and is 9x weighted. The quality of items change over time, and this can be hard to calculate but can be both good and bad. Say a house in 1950 cost $5,000 on average, but it is $500,000 in 2022. However, a house now is also going to be way bigger and have lots of improvements and probably some worse aspects. Shrinkflation is also common. Say a large pizza was $15 and 16 inches wide, so you had and your partner had dinner and a piece left over for lunch each. Now a large pizza is 15 inches wide, so it is only enough for dinner even though it is still $15. The government pays out a lot of money and collects a lot of money based on inflation. Social Security and taxes both get changed by inflation, as does the poverty level. In my opinion, they keep inflation artificially low so these things don't change and they don't have to spend more money on them. Not to mention it looks better for their re-election if inflation is low. That's only CPI, Consumer Price Index, which is a basket of goods. The prices of those goods is compared over the last 12 months and that is the CPI inflation number. However, the Fed and governor can and did change the goods within the basket to artificially lower inflation of CPI. Reality is that every individual has a different basket of goods that they consume based on their lifestyles, jobs, diets, place of living, etc. For most people, inflation is such closer to 1,520%. Housing costs a lot more, but inflation measures like CPI use owner's equivalent rent instead. So the CPI housing is only up 5%, but the same house costs 15% more. And the mortgage rate is up 111%. So the mortgage payment on the same house costs 143% more. But most people aren't buying houses. So on average your housing costs only went up 5%. If you're unlucky enough to buy or sign a new lease now, you're paying astronomically more than that. You are right, they do cheat on this. The US government has incentive to underreport this inflation rate, and such the actual inflation measured by equivalent products is much greater. I recall seeing somewhere that the rate is near or greater double what is reported. But don't take my word for it, do your own research. Inflation is calculated trough a basket of goods which consumers typically buy. Food, housing, mobility, entertainment, services, you name it. It is estimated how often they buy it, how much it takes from their budget, household income. After that it is looked how much it has risen in specific shops throughout the country. That is the official inflation rate. And it isn't without critics for the reason you imply. It isn't suitable for anyone. It is too broad. Neither are your feelings wrong. Probably. Nor does the economy cheats by that. Food and energy are excluded from the calculation of the rate. Those two things are way up due to various factors. If you think things are bad now, and after a trip to the grocery store I feel like it's crazy. But my hunch is 6 months from now we're all going to envy us now. Stupid policy and mass hysteria in housing pricing from the last couple years, coupled with outrageous car pricing, will catch up. Or small peen Putin will throw a tantrum any day and we'll be fighting over the last cans of food. And fending off the Godzillas. It's not they're lying. Comparing cost of living from last year to this year, prices of nearly everything has gone up by at least 30%. Subjective. Very subjective. Are you actually comparing receipts and records or what you think stuff used to cost? Some things have gone up more than others, but memory is exceedingly fallible and people often say stuff like they remember 2 years ago. Gas was $1.50 a gallon and you could even find cheaper, and now, when that was like 25 years ago. CPI is indeed flawed and typically underrepresents true inflation across the board. Inflation is measured using the Consumer Price Index. Housing costs account for more than 40% of the CPI. This is why the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates and cratering the housing market. It makes inflation look less severe. Because Biden hated cheap energy and the Dems are beholden to special interests, so climate trumped everything including production. No reason for any of this. Okay, so I am one of those people who keeps a home accounting spreadsheet for our expenses like mortgage, utilities, car payments, insurances, and etc. I also have a column where I keep track of alternating expenses like groceries, fuel, entertainment, going out to eat, car expenses like oil changes and etc. Over the past 2 years our alternating expenses have increased rapidly. I used to account for $150 a week for groceries, now it's about $225. I used to account for $300 a month for fuel, now it's closer to $500. We went from going out to eat 34 times a week to only 2 times. I also cut some services like streaming, pet grooming, car wash, and now I may have to let my gardener go and go back to doing the lawn myself. I haven't put much in my savings the past 2 years as holidays, birthdays, sports and kids' school stuff has taken that. Our family inflation is around 20% increase in the past 2 years as everything has gone up. Be careful about the questions you are asking. You are showing signs of free thought. Corporations are also making record profits. It's also price gouging. Inflation rates are up so high that studies can't even keep up. Normal bag of Doritos, $5.60. Because you are being lied to. My finance uni professor kept telling us the inflation is much higher and that the governor is purposely changing how it is calculated or miscalculating it. Specific item prices are indeed much higher, inflated. Higher price percent increase.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. TooAfraidToAsk is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.